What if I told you your real estate tax loss may be completely useless to you right now? A lot of high income investors buy rental properties, do cost segregation, create a huge paper loss, and then find out from their CPA that they actually can't use it against their W-2 income. So in this video, I'll explain why passive losses get trapped, who the IRS allows to use them, and the one rule that separates investors who get the deduction from investors who just carry it forward. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what a passive loss actually is, why the IRS created this rule, how it affects you as a higher income professional, and the specific pathways that allow you to unlock these losses and use them to your advantage. This is the kind of clarity that most people only get after paying a CPA thousands of dollars. Let's get into it. And if you want real estate tax strategies explained in plain English without the hype, confusion, or bad advice that gets high income earners in trouble, hit like on this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a post. Now, first, let me be clear about who this is for. This is for you if you're a doctor, an engineer, an attorney, a business owner, or any other higher income W-2 professional earning over $150,000 a year. You've probably heard that real estate can reduce your taxes. And maybe you've already invested in a rental property or a syndication deal. And you've been told there's depreciation deductions available to you. But here's what most people, why they run into a wall. They invest in a real estate. They get a K-1 form at the time of taxes showing a big paper loss, maybe 30, 50,000. They get excited. They hand it over to their CPA, and then their CPA says, sorry, you can't use that loss right now. It's suspended. And they're left wondering, what does that even mean? Did I do something wrong? Is my investment broken? No, nothing is broken, but you need to understand the rule that's creating this situation in the first place. Let me bust two myths right now. Myth number one, real estate losses automatically reduce your tax bill. No, they do not. Not without the right structure in place. Myth number two, if you can't use the loss today, it's gone forever. And that's absolutely not true. These losses are incredibly valuable. They don't disappear. They sit on your tax return like a savings account waiting to be used. And here is what's really going on. In 1986, Congress passed the Tax Reform Act and created what are now called Passive Activity Loss Rules, or PAL rules. They live in Section 469 of the tax code, and they fundamentally change how rental real estate losses work. Here's the core idea in simple terms. The IRS divides all income and losses into three buckets. Active income, that's your salary, your business earnings, your 1099 income. Portfolio income, that's dividends, interest, capital gains. And passive income, that's income or losses from activities you don't materially participate in, which includes almost all rental real estate by default. The rule is this: passive losses can only offset passive income. They cannot, by default, offset your active W-2 salary or your business income. So here's what that means in practice. You invest $100,000 into real estate syndications. The deal does a cost segregation study covered in another video and generates $40,000 in paper losses in year one. That loss shows up in your K-1. But because it's a passive loss, it can only offset passive income from other investments. And if you don't have passive income to match it against, that $40,000 loss gets suspended. It carries forward to future years. Now here's the critical thing most people miss, and this is where it gets really interesting. That $40,000 doesn't disappear. It sits on your tax return as a suspended passive loss. And there are three specific moments when it gets released and fully usable. Number one, when you have passive income from some other source to offset it. And if you own another rental property generating $20,000 in passive income, your suspended loss absorbs that income, making it tax-free. Number two, when you sell the investment, when you fully dispose of a passive activity in a taxable sale, every single suspended passive loss from that investment is released all at once and can offset any type of income, active, passive, or capital gains. Number three, if you qualify for one of two special exemptions that allow passive losses to offset active income in real time. Now, this is where the real strategy lives. Let me walk you through the numbers first, and then we'll cover the exceptions. Say you're a physician earning $400,000 a year. You invest in 2 real estate syndications. Over 3 years, you accumulate $90,000 in suspended passive losses. And in year 4, one of those deals sells. At the sale, your $90,000 in suspended losses is fully released. You also receive a $60,000 capital gain from the sale. The losses wipe out the gain entirely, and you still have $30,000 left to offset other income. And according to White Coat Investor, this is one of the most powerful and underutilized tax strategies available to high-income professionals. The losses feel dormant, but they're building up silently like a compressed spring, waiting to release at exactly the right moment. Now, let's talk about how to unlock them early, before this sale. So exception 1, the $25,000 special allowance. If your modified adjusted gross income is under $100,000, the IRS allows you to deduct up to $25,000 in rental real estate losses against your active income, as long as you actively participate in the property. Active participation just means you own at least 10% of the property and make management decisions. This phases out completely by $150,000 in income. So for most high earners watching this video, this exception doesn't exactly or fully apply, but it's worth knowing. And exception 2, the short-term rental loophole. If your rental property has an average guest stay of 7 days or less, think like Airbnb, VRBO, vacation rentals, the IRS does not classify it as a rental activity. That means it's not subject to the passive loss rules by default. And if you materially participate in managing the property, which means spending at least 100 hours on it per year or more, and more than anyone else, your losses become non-passive. They can offset your W-2 income directly, dollar for dollar. And according to PiggerPockets, when you combine this loophole with 100% bonus appreciation, which, by the way, was permanently restored under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which was signed last year in July of 2025, high-income earners are generating $80,000 to $150,000 in first-year deductions on a single short-term rental property, and using every dollar of it against their active income. Think about that. Exception 3, real estate professional status, or REPS. That's another video, but this is the most powerful exception, but it has to be the highest bar. To qualify, you or your spouse must spend more than 750 hours per year in real property, trades, or businesses, and more time than in real estate than any other profession. For a full-time physician or executive, qualifying is essentially impossible. But if a non-working or part-time working spouse qualifies for REPS and materially participates in rental properties, all rental losses, including those large depreciation deductions, become non-passive. And that's where the real strategy lies. They can offset the high-earning spouse's active income with no cap, no limit. White Coat Investor notes that this is one of the most common tax planning strategies used by high-earning households where one spouse has stepped back from full-time work. Now, let me address the questions I know you're sitting with. What if I never qualify for REPS or the short-term rental loophole? Are my passive losses useless? No, not at all. Remember, they carry forward indefinitely, and they release in full when you sell. So if you build a portfolio of syndication investments over 5 to 7 years, you may accumulate $200,000 or more in suspended passive losses. And when those deals exit, those losses shelter your capital gains and recapture depreciation from taxes. You're not losing the benefit, you're deferring it to the most tax-efficient moment. Is the IRS going to flag me for using these strategies? These are not loopholes in the shady sense. They're exactly written directly into the tax code. They've commented on this over in memos in the past. The passive activity loss rules, the short-term rental exception, and REPS are all explicitly defined in Section 469. The key is documentation. If you're claiming material participation, you better back it up. Keep a real-time log of your hours. If you're claiming the STR exception, make sure your average stay is genuinely 7 days or fewer. Work with a CPA who specializes in real estate and high-income professionals. This is standard tax planning. It's not a gray area. Is now even a good time to be investing in real estate to take advantage of this? The market data for 2026 is encouraging. According to CBRE's Q1 2026 multifamily report, the national multifamily vacancy rate fell to 4.8%, below its long-term average of 5%. Net absorption outpaced new construction completions for the first time in 3 quarters. New supply is down 30% year over year. And overall commercial real estate investment is projected to increase 16% in 2026 to $562 billion, nearly matching pre-pandemic averages. The fundamentals are stabilizing. For long-term passive investors, this is a meaningful entry window. Now, let me paint you a picture of what it looks like if you apply it consistently. Imagine it's 5 years from now, you've made 3 passive investments into well-structured real estate syndications. Each year, your K1s have been generating suspended passive losses. You've also acquired 1 short-term rental property that you're materially participating in. That property generates $60,000 in year 1 deductions that offset your W-2 income directly, saving you over $22,000 in federal taxes in a single year. Meanwhile, your syndication deals begin to exit. When they sell, your accumulated suspended losses, let's say $120,000, are all released all at once, sheltering your capital gains from sales entirely. You've legally kept hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the hands of the IRS over 5 years, not through tricks or shady stuff. There's no risky strategy. It's a clear, documented understanding of how the tax code actually works. It's designed to incentivize this. And a plan designed around it from the beginning is exactly what makes passive losses possible. If this video helped you finally understand passive losses and now you're starting to see how real estate investing could fit into your financial picture as a busy professional and what have you, I want to make sure you have everything you need to take the next step with more confidence. Go to www.cardia.com, and when you get there, you can download 2 free ebooks right away. One about taxes, one about syndications. It's written specifically for higher income professionals who are new to passive real estate investing, and they want a clear, practical starting point. You'll also have immediate access to a free 9-part passive investment masterclass. Inside, I walk you through the exact framework that many investors use to build long-term passive income through real estate. Things that I wish I would have had from day one. From evaluating your first deal, to understanding tax strategy, to vetting sponsors, to building a portfolio that works for your specific situation. This training was built specifically for busy professionals, people who want conservative, long-term passive income without quitting their jobs, managing tenants, or becoming full-time landlords. Everything you just learned in this video about passive losses is one piece of a much bigger blueprint. So the passive 9-part masterclass is when this blueprint really starts to come together. And don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.